So in this demonstration we're going to have a look at the ticker option within Campaign Manager. A ticker is a piece of scrolling text that's usually aligned to either the top or the bottom of the screen and plays over existing content. To create a ticker, just click the New Ticker button. And as you can see, this dialog is very similar to the normal campaign editor dialog, except instead of adding media, we're going to be changing the properties of our ticker. Let's go ahead and look at the ticker properties. We show you the ticker as it would appear on the screen, and that's why there's this large dark area here which basically represents your screen. A ticker will play on top of an existing campaign and is not part of a campaign where you might add media. It will instead play over the top of normal media. So let's look at how you manage a ticker within Campaign Manager. The dialog that we're looking at here allows us to set the content of the ticker and also allows us to change how that ticker will look. So let's have a quick look at how you get content into your ticker. The simplest way is what we call static content, and I can paste text in here like this, and you'll notice that when I paste that text in there, it is reflected out here in our ticker. You'll notice that if the text is longer than can be presented on its own, it will scroll automatically, and that can scroll left to right, and it also supports right to left for Arabic and Hebrew. The text also supports all the languages that Windows does, so if you're running on a Thai version of Windows, you can faithfully represent Thai text there. The same goes for Japanese and Korean and Chinese, etc. So that's quite useful. I can type in any text I like here. But another feature called automatic content allows us to specify content that can be dragged in real time from a remote source, and that remote source could be a website, it could be a blog feed, or whatever you need to do. I've gone to the MSNBC website, and as you can see, there's many different RSS feeds here that contain data that is updated all the time. I just copy the link to the XML, copy shortcut, and I go back to my Campaign Manager. I click the Add RSS Feed button and just paste in that RSS feed right there. So what the system is doing now, it's going off to the MSNBC website and drawing down the text that is associated with that particular feed. And as you can see over here, we now have scrolling text that is basically updated news. I can have a better look at that perhaps if I zoom in a little bit. You can see that the text is scrolling, we've got a headline, and we've got the details underneath. I can add multiple feeds to my ticker, and there's no limit in fact on how many feeds I can add. It's worth noting that should a remote player lose a connection to the internet and fail to update this, it will default back to the static text. If the remote CM player becomes disconnected, it will simply use a cached version of that text. So let's have a look at some of the formatting options that are available to us. In order to change how the ticker appears, I just click on the Format Ticker button. I can change the font for the headline and the scrolling part. I can also change the text color, and here's where I change the two gradient colors. So let's make this ticker look slightly different. We'll choose say this brown color for the first one, and we'll choose orange for the second color. So now we have something that looks different. In terms of color, I can also change the gradient style to be horizontal or vertical, and that's the kind of effect you get. Some other things I might like to do with the text, perhaps to make it appear a bit clearer, is to add a drop shadow. So you can see that has an immediate effect on the ticker and it gives it a bit of depth. I can also choose to include the time and date by clicking that checkbox. And as you can see, the date now appears over on the right hand side. It gives me the time and the date. The format of the date is actually dependent on the machine it's playing on. So if this were a Japanese version of Windows, I would get the Japanese date automatically. I can also change the width of the ticker if I require, simply by moving the scroller, and as you can see, it is now aligned to the bottom left. I can change its alignment to any particular location. I can also change how the clock appears, and this is basically the same options as were available for the ticker. Over in this section, we have some options for what image is displayed with the ticker. We can automatically include the channel image, and as you can see, when I click that, we get the MSNBC logo. I can choose my own image, or I can choose none. It's important to note that with regard to the height and the width, it is a percentage rather than a pixel size. This allows you to publish to different screens without having to worry about the particular orientation or pixel size of each of those displays. The item display duration controls how long the piece of text will appear once it's finished scrolling. The refresh rate changes how often the player will go out and attempt to update that RSS feed. We have a couple of animation options, changing from one item to the next, and I can change the animation style to slide in from the bottom so we get an effect like that. Text quality can affect the performance of the ticker if you're using a kind of a low spec box. Here are some options to get better quality text. Probably the best is anti-aliased, and that of course uses more CPU power. Finally, we should talk about the primary ticker. It is possible to have multiple tickers on the screen at the same time. The primary ticker, once that is checked, will simply ensure that that particular ticker will be anchored to the bottom. If I was to publish another ticker at the same time and not leave primary ticker checked, then it would sit on top of that other ticker. So you can stack tickers all the way up the screen if you really wanted to. And lastly, we'll have a look at the RSS tool. This button allows you to create your own RSS feed. In this location, you put in a URL for the image that you may want to display with the ticker, and you simply enter text details in here. Once you've done that, you can create the RSS file, and then you need to put it on a web server so that the player can download it and display it.